you hear living a life of ease, for anyone listening to that, they might be rolling their eyes as they're driving to work, as they're trying to, finish up the end of the year, like you said, or there's things with kids and things that are going on. But truly, what it means is that we don't have to control and manically try and force things. Number one, if it really is something that's coming your way, and it's something that's going to be aligned for your best and highest good, there's always peace attached to it. And the second key to pay attention to is that falling into place with ease. And there's a sense sometimes in your gut or your intuition that you're like, this isn't right, but you keep second guessing it. That is a big difference. Things that have a peace and things that come together with an ease doesn't mean you don't have to do your part. That's always the sign that's going in the right direction.
Brian Bachand is living proof that life is an evolution. He inspires professional leaders and engages with those who feel isolated to align with clarity. Brian is passionate about building community and has served on numerous boards in the United States and Canada. He is chair of the board for ACCES Employment in Ontario, one of the largest organizations in North America that assists immigrants in finding successful employment. And he is the founder of Evolution, helping leaders bring forth new desired outcomes. We've got a very awesome conversation in store for you today. We're going to be talking all about how you can move forward in your life and live a life of ease. We're at the end of the year. We're go, go, go. It's holiday time. It's crunch time. If you're in sales, you're wrapping up the final quarter. But no matter what industry, no matter what organization, what business you're in, we could all use a little bit more ease in our life, especially in the climate that we're in today. So I'm really excited to talk to Brian. Brian, we've known each other for over a year now, I think, which is incredible, but it's great to have you on the show, my friend.
It's a joy to be here with you and your audience, Brendan. Thank you so much for the invitation.
I'm so excited for it. I know we met originally with one of Frank Agan's networking groups, and we shared a conversation after that, which was great. And I learned a bit about your history and your past, which we'll talk about today, and how that's led you to do what you do. And then I recently had Rob Party on the show, and Rob was like, Brandon, there's two people I want to introduce you to. They're both incredible people, and the universe spun our web together again. We were reintroduced. We had another conversation, and I was like, Brian, how have we not had you on the show to talk about what it is you do? So again, thank you for being on the show, sir. I'm glad we made it happen.
It's a pleasure. All things happen in the right timing. So it's great. It was meant to be for now.
So we talked about a lot in our conversation. One of the things we talked about was your new series, which is called Soulfully Speaking, which we will talk about. And we were talking about how to move forward in life. We were talking about evolution, what that is. And I said, well, our conversation could be centered around this. And you said, what if we centered the conversation around living a life of ease? And I love that phrase. And I've never heard someone say it the way that you did. So my first question is, what is so important about living a life of ease? And why was that top of mind for you during that conversation?
Probably because I need it. So that's probably the number one reason. But I think one of the things, you hear living a life of ease, for anyone listening to that, they might be rolling their eyes as they're driving to work, as they're trying to finish up the end of the year, like you said, or there's things with kids and things that are going on. But truly, what it means is that we don't have to control and manically try and force things. One of the great lessons that I've come to learn in life and continue to learn is that, yes, you have to have strategy. Yes, you have to have a plan. Yes, you have to put things in motion. But you also have to leave room for things to take place with a flow and trust that it will get done if you have the right attention behind it. And I think that's what I mean by a life of ease. It doesn't mean you don't have to do your part. It doesn't mean you don't have to, be attentive, but it's not forcing it, and it's believing that it's going to take place.
That's fascinating. And the immediate thing that comes to my mind is a couple things. One, what are those things that we should let go with and let the universe do their thing? But at the same time, what are those things that we should control and focus on? So when you say we should let go and trust, it reminds me of Wayne Dyer's quote, let go and let God. which
Mhm.
I've always loved. And when I first heard it, I had no idea what he meant, and I'm still wrapping my mind around it. But this reminds me a lot of that.
Yep.
So what should we let go of and let the universe or God or whatever it may be do their thing? What does that look like?
So I think the first thing is to let go of our own plan sometimes. And, because sometimes the way we expect things to get done is the biggest roadblock, that we create this sense that, oh, this is what I have to do professionally. This is what I have to do for the family. This is what I have to get done, etc. And it doesn't mean those aren't points and aspects to go after, but it's also releasing that, you know what? There may be a better way that this is going to get done once I start taking action. And sometimes we get so focused on what we think we have to do it, we keep forcing it. I'll give a concrete example. For example, if someone's looking for a new job, they might be applying for certain things and like, I want to get this job. I want to have this job by March 1st. I have to do this. And they keep coming in second place for the interviews. They're not coming forward. Well, that's a sign that there's something else trying to redirect you there. And you have a choice to either be at ease and be like, maybe I need to look at something else, or you need to keep trying to force it. And all it does is create more frustration.
Yeah. I feel at the same time, because I'm thinking of myself now in my own life. I have these ideas for where I want the podcast to go. I have ideas for where I want my consulting to go, even where I want marriage to go and life to go. And it's difficult because I feel that often our goals and our plans are in a way attached to our identity. And when we have a plan for something and then something else comes along, like a different job opportunity that you never expected you to be interested in or that would come your way, when it's presented to us, it's very easy for us to dismiss it because it doesn't align with who we believe we are identity-wise. Is there a way that you would... what would you say to that person where they have an opportunity come up where it was unexpected, yet they don't know whether they should pursue it more? How does someone go about letting go?
Oh my gosh, I love that. And actually, I spoke about this recently on a show, and I called the show, "Is it a sign or a shiny object?" Because so often we think, oh, this opportunity came my way. And sometimes we get dazzled by it. You know what I mean? Oh, it makes sense. It's what I've been wanting to do, etc. And we can react quickly. You know what I mean? And sometimes it's a shiny object, or is it a sign? And what's the difference? Number one, if it really is something that's coming your way and it's something that's going to be aligned for your best and highest good, there's always peace attached to it. And the second key to pay attention to is that falling into place with ease. And what I mean by that is, let's say you're going for a job interview or something comes along, or it's for an opportunity for a client. It's with ease because the meetings are just set up with no drama. There's follow-up. There's a sense that you have a sense of excitement. There's clarity. There's an ability for you to transparently also speak. Sometimes, if it's a sense that you're able to express yourself without being hindered, that's a sign that it's aligning in the right direction for you. Where the opposite is, if it's a shiny object, it may start out feeling good, but then there's going to be some things that aren't going to click. You're going to be more stifled. You're going to start playing in your mind, second guessing, like, oh no, that's okay. They didn't follow up with me, but that's all right, because that just means something else is going on, and it's really avoidance. And there's a sense sometimes in your gut or your intuition that you're like, this isn't right, but you keep second guessing it. That is a big difference. Things that have a peace and things that come together with an ease doesn't mean you don't have to do your part. That's always the sign that's going in the right direction.
So this is a feeling and a form of intuition and instinct of first be aware and notice this opportunity, notice this sign, or as you say, shiny object. You don't quite know at the beginning, but it sounds like what you're saying is dip your toes in the water and start down that path and see how it feels as you continue down the path. If it feels great, if you feel that sense of peace, then continue. But if there's a resistance there, then maybe that's not the best path for you to go down. Is that what you're saying.
Absolutely. So well, like you're like a great student here. My gosh, you get an A plus. You would get an A plus if you were in the class. I think, you name something that's really important. It's about intuition. Every single human being has intuition. We're designed that way. And when we're more open to it and how we're able to know our life and know our body and know how it works, it can guide us in such a powerful way. So you use the term feeling. And so there are moments that we're going to feel something. It might be a feeling, kind of internally. It might just be a sense. And can be a positive, like, wow, this just feels amazing. This is so good. Or it can be a sense of like, I don't know what it is, but this person I spoke to, there's just something off. And we have to trust that. And it will always lead you. And the more you lean into it and you do listen to it and take action from it, the more it builds your confidence in your intuition to follow it more. And it really will never lead you astray. Our intuition's never wrong. Often our interpretation of it can be wrong, or that we neglect listening to it. And that's where we get into, some sticky waters there.
Wow. Okay. So a couple of things based on that to follow up. Let's say that this new opportunity or this new sign or shiny object is conflicting with an identity that we created for ourselves. I'll give you an example. Let's say that I went to school for, and this is not true, but let's say I went to school for engineering and I had this grandiose plan in my mind that I want to be an engineer. I want to move up into that world. I thought my brain works in that way. I enjoyed it. But then an opportunity comes along 5 years later. Maybe I've already graduated with my degree, and the opportunity is a sales opportunity. And I keep telling myself, this seems like a great opportunity. Like, it's a great income. I'm great at talking with people. I think I'd be good at this, but it goes against everything that I've known up until this point in my life. How does one move forward with a sign or a new opportunity when that sign in a way conflicts with one's own identity of who they believed they were?
Okay. I love that. That's like a whole show right there. So let's break that down a little bit. So first of all, someone's an engineer, a new opportunity comes along that's totally different. So first of all, it doesn't mean that that sign is in conflict with your identity. We often think, you hear so much talk right now about purpose. What's my purpose? My purpose. Our purpose is the sense of feeling of how we want to be in the world. It's not about a job description. That's not about our title. It's about what we want to be. It's a sense of service. It's a sense of, to use your words that you just said, if they came along, with this opportunity, you're like, I love people. I love connecting with people. I'm really good. It can be a sense of like, wow, I want to be more with people. So because that opportunity came along, it is still aligned with your purpose of, wow, maybe I need to tap more into that. This is giving me an opportunity to bring my gifts in a new way out into the world in a different area. All engineering is it's an expertise, it's a gift, it's a wonderful way, but you can live your purpose out, that sense of wanting to connect, in a new industry that's more aligned with you. So it really isn't in conflict. We get very caught up that our identity is so tied to our profession. And that's really a really tough place to live, because when you live in that sense that, oh, I'm a doctor, I'm an engineer, and that's all you are. Well, you're boxing yourself in, and all that is your ego trying to control you. Where when you tap into, wow, my gifts are really connecting with people, making people feel so excited about something I want to share with them and inviting them into that conversation. And I can do that as an engineer in different areas. That's where that's coming into. And we need to be open to that.
Yeah, no, very well said. You have a very great way of taking these concepts that are rather large concepts and explaining them in a way that's very comfortable and easy to understand, which I really appreciate. So thank you for that.
Probably because I've lived it. No. or I've had to live it. So that's probably the reason why.
Well, speaking of that, you've worn many hats, throughout your life, and you're in not even in you're in the prime, but there's so many more chapters for you to live in your life and so many more things for you to do. And more adventures to go on, but you've already lived a lot of different adventures. And I'm curious to hear, based on that last conversation of purpose and of mission and of identity, was it difficult for you to transition from some of those roles into other roles? Did you question the transition yourself? Like, can you give us an idea of, like, when did you come around your purpose, and when did you discover what you just explained to us 30 seconds ago?
Yeah, sure. So I think one of the biggest areas, and for, for those that are just hearing me speak for the first time, there's a lot of other stories. You can go deeper into this, but I was a Catholic priest for 8 years. I became a priest at 27 right after university, 4 years in a big parish, which I loved, and it was amazing. In 4 years, I served as the private secretary to a cardinal from the Vatican, which was also an incredible gift. And I have to say, I was a happy priest. Like, I wasn't unhappy. I wasn't miserable in any way, shape, or form. I knew I was deeply loved by the people, and I loved them, and I loved the way I was able to serve. But I also knew when I was working for the cardinal that there was some shifting of my evolution internally, spiritually, humanly, that I knew I wanted to be able to love another person. I knew I wanted to bring my gifts to the world in a different way. And I was given a moment, I was given a gift, really, of having a stepping back and seeing that the future that was being prepared for me for more leadership and more years in the church was not how I desired to live. And it really was a sense, there's a huge sense of conflict there of, oh my gosh, all this schooling. So imagine, all these, 5 years of schooling after university. Then there was, the money that had been invested in me. Then there was the love and the respect that people had for me. There was the cardinal that respected me and, was really kind of putting me in positions for grooming. Yeah, there was a conflict there. But I knew my purpose and my soul, my being wanted to be freer and more integrated. And what had served me so beautifully for 8 years and 5 years in the seminary was a gift. But I knew that I was being drawn into a different way to live that out.
Wow. What was that sign for you? Was that a feeling? Was it intuition? Like, what was the sign that brought you into that next chapter, per se?
Yeah, there are certain moments, and for anyone that's listening right now, these are the gifts to pay attention to, because we often think there's like big lightning bolt moments. Sometimes that happens that are going to guide us, but it's usually ordinary moments that pause and help us see things. I was working for the cardinal, and we had come back one evening. This was my first year, probably my first 6 months working for him. We had come back to the cathedral. I was exhausted. It had been like a 14, 15-hour day. We were all over the place. I said, I just need some fresh air. I changed, put some casual clothes on. I went for a walk in the city, and I was about a block away when I was on the sidewalk, and there was a restaurant. And these two couples came out, and they were saying goodnight. They had their work bags with them. They were saying, hey, thanks for dinner. We'll see you soon. Looking so forward to our summer vacation. And I remember pausing on the sidewalk, watching these two couples. And I remember seeing the cathedral in the background. It was 1 block away, and looking at those individuals. And I said, I want that. Mm. And there was a sense of, I wanted that sense of professionalism. I wanted the sense of a relationship. I wanted the sense of not feeling controlled, in a sense of my life going in one direction. And by the time I walked back to the cathedral, which was a block away, it felt really nice. But when I put my hand on the door to walk in, there was this overwhelming sense of fear that came over me of, how do I do that? What do I do? I could never do that. But it really is a deep sense that there are moments that we're shown, we experience, that show us of what is possible and where things can go. And you don't have to have all the answers in the moment. You just have to be open to it. And it was a year later that I finally decided to leave. But those moments are beautiful signs.
Now, in that moment between you having that revelation as you place your hand on the door to that cathedral and the year later when you finally decide, I'm sure you decided sooner, but when you made the move to begin the next chapter, the first chapter of the next chapter, right? The next book, what happened in that year? Like, what did you do in that year? Was there a planning? Was there was like what did it look like in your mind during that time of transition, if that makes sense?
Yeah, sure. And you know, it's really important because yeah, the day I got back to the cathedral was overwhelming fear. The whole way up to my room, I kept thinking, oh, I can never do this. What will my family think? You know, there's invested in me, blah, 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 blah. All the stories we tell ourselves. And so what I did is I just totally pushed it down and just denied it. Just denied it, just totally blocked it out. And then, you know, when the universe is really trying to draw us in a certain direction, when our soul and our spirit really is seeking something else, other things going to keep showing up. Things will keep showing up until we listen. So literally, probably a couple of weeks later, there were a couple other things that, you know, kind of came my way. I think I was watching a movie and it was set in New York City, the city that I always loved. And there was this sense of like, I just had this feeling I wanted to be in a different place. I could see myself living that life. And so one of the things I did, I finally got to a moment that I really wanted to talk about it. But I was high profile, and it doesn't matter if you're high profile or not. You have to be selective who you share things with. And that's one thing I encourage people. Hold your cards close. And it doesn't mean you're being secretive. Sometimes people feel guilty. Well, I should tell my spouse this, or I should tell my employer that I'm thinking about different things. You don't have to until you start to understand and have the clarity inwardly. Because when you start to share too early, there can be an energy and more questions, and all it does is confuse you more.
Yeah.
So I actually worked with someone professionally, which was amazing. And I went in there simply to say, this is what's happening. I'm like, am I in a crisis? Am I like, what's going on? Like, I need to look at this. And over several months, a weekly going and talk, it really showed me and confirmed that I wanted to go in a different direction. And then I started to share with a couple of very close, trusted friends what was happening. And that also helped kind of to have their support as I made decisions about when I wanted to leave, what industry of work I wanted to go into. How did I want to deliver the message? How did I want to communicate this?
Yeah.
And that was one of the biggest aspects, because in that moment, it is your power, your presence that is so important. And people may or may not agree with you, but unless you have that peace, unless you own your decision, you will not be able to communicate it in with ease. And it doesn't matter what the reaction is, because it has to be grounded and peaceful within first.
Wow. That's very powerful. That year was a giant turning point for you. And it sounds like what went into that year was first introspection and self-reflection. And then that self-reflection turned into the clarity, at least the clarity at the point that you were able and ready to share it with someone, that someone being someone professional who you worked with, a form of coach, I'm assuming. And then it turned into the confidence that allows you to start speaking to your friends and those most trusted in your life. So that year, while it doesn't sound like a lot of time, that year was a very pivotal year that has led you to where it is that you are now with what you do, even with evolution.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one thing about that is I still worked full time. I remember the night I went to go cheer the Cardinal that I wanted to resign and move forward. I remember his first words to me is like, I had no idea that you were going through all this, and you still gave me 100%. And so I think it's important that if for anyone who's going through a sense of like, I want to change careers, is it a relationship change, or is it a place I just feel I want to go in a new direction and live somewhere else? It doesn't mean you still don't live your life. I was still fully committed in being there, but I was being attentive to those signs, and being honest about what was happening. And eventually it gets to a moment that you realize, people always ask me, oh, it must have been so hard when you left and started your new job. It wasn't. Starting my new job, it was the easiest thing in the world. The hardest part was the waiting period, especially the last few months when you're in these two worlds. Like, you've made the decision, you're still there, you're kind of waiting. That's always the most challenging moment. But that's also okay, because it just cemented in a beautiful way that clarity.
Yeah.
So when I did leave and stepped into my new role in life in New York City, I was ready, so ready.
Because you did the work beforehand.
You did the work, and there wasn't the baggage, and it doesn't mean there weren't learning curves. There certainly was, but there wasn't this sense of doubt. I never had a sense of self-doubt for really at any time. It was a sense of like, yeah, this is the right decision. I'm learning. I'm in a transition of certain things, but I never doubted the decision. There was such clarity, and things happened with ease.
Yes, I love that. I appreciate you sharing that story, because I think that's really important for everyone listening who is in a similar situation or will be in one or who has been in one, to be able to either look forward or look back and be able to unpack why we made the decisions we made or what we can do moving forward as well. Now, I'm curious with you. You just started a new project, Soulfully Speaking, which I want to dive into, because it's amazing, the concept and why you started it and what each episode holds, and we'll talk about that. When it comes to you starting new projects like that nowadays, and when it comes to you looking forward at who you want to become in a year, in 5 years, in 10 years, we always get stuck in the conundrum between being in the present moment, looking forward, looking back, learning from mistakes. What is your relationship with time, and how do you plan to move forward at this stage and chapter in your life?
Oh, I love that question. That's really great. So one of the biggest learnings, I have to say, starting my own company on November 11th, 2019 is when I launched, has been the biggest learning of my entire life. And one of the biggest challenges, leaving the priesthood and going to New York City, becoming an executive, was easier. I'll be quite honest with you. I found it easier in the sense that, and the reason being is because in whatever role I went into, I always had a team immediately around me. I always had a team of people that supported. I always had people that I could bounce ideas on, et cetera. When you start your own company, one of the biggest challenges is the time is yours. It's pretty much you out of the gate. And that's hard, especially for someone that's always had a team and doing that. And so, there was definitely some learning, but where I'm at now, a couple of years into it, is I really see time as where do I want my energy to be focused on for the greatest good that it will serve. And so the projects that I'm doing, rather than trying to do so many, I rather focus on just a few that have the greatest impact and also bring me the greatest joy.
Yeah.
And that's the bottom line. And that's where Soulfully Speaking just brings me joy out of the gate. And it wasn't about perfection out of the gate. And it's about joy. And that's how I now gauge my projects. And now I'm in a position to start bringing on some people to assist and help and grow. And that really changes things. And that's really important for me to help manage my time.
I love that. There's so many different ways you could have gone about answering that, but you brought it back to what I said earlier about your way of explaining things simply yet powerfully, of, well, the way that your relationship with time is just that you focus on those activities and tasks, but not even just those activities and tasks, but you focus on where your energy is best placed in terms of getting the best outcome for other people, but also what brings you joy. That's a really powerful insight, where even if we rewind 2 minutes and listen to that again and ask ourselves, okay, our energy and our strengths and our personal power, where is our time best placed? Because I remember before I had even one person on my team, I was the one going through and editing all the podcasts, and I was making the clips and adding the subtitles. And I would spend 3 hours on one episode. And it got to the point where I liked doing that. But what I loved the most and what brought me the most joy was having the conversation and then having someone else do those minute things, which are very important, just as important, but not necessarily my seat of power necessarily. So instead, I started focusing on having more conversations. I brought someone on who takes the episode, turns it into what it becomes later on. But it speaks to exactly what you're saying. Focus on what brings you joy, but what also allows you to make the most impact with what your gifts are.
Absolutely. And, it takes time, right? I mean, you can't, there are times that, you have to edit those clips and you're the one who have to do it. And that's okay. There's nothing the matter with that. Even then you can make the most out of it,
Yeah.
As you're learning. But it is about where you spend the time is really, really important. I know for me, so I'm highly organized. Like I'm really, really organized. It's kind of one of the things I'm really very good at. That's why I think I'm able to do so many things. However, I also realize I can get stuck in that sometimes. And, and what it's really important, what feeds me is the creative side of things. And so one of the things I've shifted and still work on is in my schedule that because it's my own company, I now try in the morning to do one thing that is creative first, rather than jumping into an administrative aspect or something that needs to be done, because that is what feeds me. It keeps me tied to the mission, to the purpose of where it needs to be.
Is that one of the first things you do each day, is something that is creative to jumpstart the day?
Sure. So in addition to my own like kind of private ritual that I do every morning, I definitely working out is a big part of my life every morning. There's also a sense of meditation, journaling, etc. So that's something that grounds me on the personal side. But professionally, when I start, one of the things I love to do is I actually sometimes what's creative is I love about building community. That's something that's in my heart. I love building community. So sometimes what I do is I will pick whatever the date is. So let's say today is the 12th of the month, right? I will pick 12 people in my network and I'll go send them a quick message just to say, I wish you a great week. I was thinking of you today. Just want to say hello. I'll send a voice note, etc. What does that do? It's about my community, people who are part of my community that are engaged in my work or on LinkedIn, wherever they may be. It's a sense of letting them know they're appreciated. It's inspiring them. Maybe I saw something they did. And it ignites me, it connects me, and it's also going to make their day great. Another aspect is a project that I'm working on for 2023 is I want to do more retreats. And so one of the things I've been doing is I will just plan 30 minutes and I go on to the different websites and places that I'm looking at. And instead of going to like full blown action mode of like all the things I have to do, I just enjoy looking at the websites. I read more of the content. I research, oh, wow, what are some of the other things that might be available to do if I brought a group to this destination? Maybe I'm thinking about doing, a particular kind of retreat and research that. That ignites the creativeness inside of me. That ignites the mission of what I'm trying to do. It gets me excited about the people who I think will be there. So keeping it simple in the morning. It can be just 5 minutes. It can be 30 minutes. But it's that connection back to what you're doing. And it just feeds me. So when I do the administrative things, it's a little bit different. And instead of just jumping into doing, it's a sense of being.
I think that's one of the areas I want to work on mostly with myself is, as an example, with a retreat, because I also want to get into the world of retreats in the future here. And I think of it, and I love how you just described it because that was very helpful for me. I think of it as I want to do a retreat. I want to do it at a nice exotic resort. I want to bring, the executives and the sales teams down there and do what we're talking about with the activities and the education. But then my brain immediately goes to the opposite of what you just said. It goes to going on the website, but sending the messages and asking the questions and doing. And there's a big difference between I have to do this now versus I'm just going to go on the website and read a bit about this and picture in my mind about what this could look like from a place of joy versus from a place of I have to do this as one of those tasks that must be done before this retreat can be a reality. So that's very helpful for me, the way that you just described that.
Well, it's great. Well, and what you just said, I can relate to 10,000% because I'm the same way. I go on and they always say, contact us. And as soon as you do, they're going to contact you and they're going to be right there trying to let's set up a meeting and blah, blah, blah. Sometimes you just have to be. It's like if you get a new apartment or you get a new house, you go into those empty rooms, and it's important to imagine the color that you want. Or maybe you want to do a renovation of like, wow, you know what? Like, we're going to tear down this wall. It's going to open it up, rather than like moving everything in right away. Sometimes when you allow yourself to be in that space, and even the space of our own mind, our heart, of what we're trying to create, it's much more will come alive, much more will come in our thoughts of what we can do. So when we do hit that button to connect or send a message, we have more clarity, we have more excitement, and it's going to be a much better conversation.
I love that. That's powerful. So let's talk about Soulfully Speaking, as this was one of your most recent creative ventures. And it's, I mean, the reception that you've received from even the first few episodes of this were incredible. I remember even you said, I was surprised by how many people loved the first conversation we had and continued to join. You just did another one recently. Tell me about Soulfully Speaking. Tell me about the concept of 17 minutes, because I thought that was really cool. And what's your goal for this series? Just talk to me about Soulfully Speaking.
Yeah, so Soulfully Speaking is a new live show that I launched on my birthday, which is October 17th. And it is a 17-minute live show that airs live on LinkedIn every Monday at 12 o'clock Eastern. But it's then also put into a podcast form as well after. So you can listen to it and stream it on the major platforms. And so where did Soulfully Speaking come from? I never wanted a live show. It was easier to be a guest on other people's show, so I don't have to do the editing and things like that you were just speaking about a few minutes ago. Yeah. And so I never desired it. But there was something, one of the things I share about this in the very first episode that I call Catch Your Breath, and I aired it on my birthday. It was a sense of, I always desired to be a teacher. I loved my teachers from elementary school, and I feel I am a teacher. And I wanted to be able to have a platform that I could teach in a very short form some major concepts that can be applied to your life personally and professionally. And I picked 17 minutes because it's my birth date. I have a method called the 17 method to go from panic to peace. And the number 17 means a lot to me. You know, the number 1 is about divinity. Number 7 is about leadership. You put it together and it's there. And over the summer, it was interesting how the name came to me. I'm a big bicyclist, and I was out biking, and I stopped in this one location, and I was just sitting by these trees, and I was just kind of thinking, how do I develop this speaking concept? And I actually, I'm going to go out on a limb here and say, but it was funny. I had a very good friend of mine who was a priest who died at 39, and his name was James. He was a wonderful, wonderful friend. And I actually kind of said to him, like, just talk to him. I said, hey, James, like, I need some help. Like, what do I call this? And I closed my eyes, and I was doing some breathing, listening to the sound of the wind through the trees and being there. And at the very end, I just got this very strong sense, soulfully. It's Soulfully Speaking. And so I called the show Soulfully Speaking, because when we have soulful conversations, it connects us to our hearts. It connects us to that purpose. It helps us live with ease, takes away all the crazy noise. There's so much out there right now of like, here's 10 ways to do this, 5 ways to overcome imposter syndrome, 3 ways to do this. That's great, but it's nonsense, because who's going to remember all those steps? No one. No one's going to remember it. It's all marketing tools, and I'm not dismissing it. It has a place, but a soulful conversation, you remember.
Yeah.
You remember the words. And so 17 minutes, and it's fun. We have a great time. We pick great topics that everyone can relate to. And it just really is something you can apply that day with ease, with joy into your life.
That's amazing. It's a great name, and it's a great story and reasons why it's packed the way that it's packed. The one thing I'll say too is, first of all, everyone, you've got to go follow and or connect with Brian on LinkedIn. And he other than Soulfully Speaking, he's extremely active on the platform. You put much time and attention and love into your posts because, like you said, you are a teacher and you are an educator, and you're a really good one because you've been doing it for a long time. And he's only going to get better, guys. You got to go check it out. But the one thing that I love about your shows and your content and your posts and conversations with you is you are very much not the step 1, step 2, step 3. You know, here's the 5 things, here's the 10 things. You're not just giving like, boom, content here, content there. You are the one thing that I get from every conversation with you is after we leave the conversation, I feel that I'm in a better place afterwards. And I feel at peace, at ease. And I don't say that just because of the episode name, but I just feel better after watching, reading, or having a conversation with you. And I know that there's so much merit in that, because if you're feeling better, if you're in a better state, then you're going to make very different decisions in that feel-good state than you would in a state of uncertainty or a state of fear or a state of anxiety or dis-ease. So I appreciate you as a friend, and I'm glad that we connected, and I'm so excited for more people to listen to your show. And I just wanted to commend you for that. So thank you very much for that, Brian.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. It means a lot. And you know what you just said, I received that. I feel that is my intention, 1000% behind the show, is that people feel that peace and they feel better. And that's when I work with clients, when I speak, that is the number one intention. So you ask what the focus is for the future. I just want more people to feel that and have that.
I love that. And that's a beautiful place to wrap this up. Everyone, go check out the description to connect and follow Brian, to check out Soulfully Speaking and all the other awesome things that he's doing on his platforms. I'll also include the website for Evolution, so you can check out that and the work that he does with leaders and organizations. He does a lot. So whatever is applicable for you, go check it out in the description. Brian, thank you so much for being on the Be Better broadcast. And I'm so glad we made this happen, sir.
I am too. Thank you so much. And thank you to everyone who is listening.
This was a very soulful conversation where we didn't give you boom, boom, boom. Here is how to be more at ease. Here is how to relax. Here's the exact step-by-step morning routine that you need. There was some of that. There was some, direct actionable tips that you can use. But I hope that you feel what I feel when I speak with Brian. We've spoken a handful of times in the past, and afterwards, like I said, I always feel better off, and I hope you feel that way too. If you do feel that way, there's no ads, sponsors for the Be Better broadcast. We grow because you are the best part of the Be Better team. And all that we ask is, if you took even one thing away from this conversation with Brian Bachand, please share this show with just one other person who could use it as well. Thank you so much for watching and listening. Check out the descriptions to connect and follow Brian, and go check out Soulfully Speaking. And until we talk again next time, continue to be better.